Here we go, quick blast in the MDX A-Spec Sport mode with the S transmission. So here we go, give it the beans, there we go. 60, I mean this thing's pretty quick. Welcome to Drive Culture. I'm Jonathan Rivers, and today we have the 2024 Acura MDX A-Spec. And I'm going to tell you why this is one of the best-selling three-row luxury SUVs out there on the market today. So we'll go over the exterior, the interior, the powertrain, and of course, take it for a drive. So if this is content you're after, or you're new to the channel, please be sure to click that bell to subscribe and come back for more. And with that, let's get after it. All right, guys, here we are with the 2024 Acura MDX A-Spec. Now, this car launched, as the fourth generation of MDX as a 2022 model year. And so, as I mentioned earlier, Acura just announced that for 2025, there's going to be kind of this mid-cycle refresh with lots of new updates, features, and design. So let us know down in the comments below if that's something you want to see here on the channel. Also, maybe what trims you want to see. We're happy to bring that to you. But today, we're going to cover this last model year prior to that refresh. So let's jump right into it. There's obviously several trims for MDX right now. And MDX and the technology package can be offered in both front-wheel drive or super handling all-wheel drive. Every trim above that, so like A-Spec, the Advanced, and then obviously once you get to like the Type S, they all come only with the super handling all-wheel drive. So we'll talk a little bit more how that works and the details of it in the powertrain section, but essentially that's how you're going to configure your vehicle. This particular one here being the A-Spec is $60,550. That's the latest MSRP. We'll put the other MSRP up on the screen so you can see that as well, but this is kind of in the middle of the MDX lineup. And again, it has a lot of good features and technologies given the price point. But let's jump right into the design. So this particular car is in majestic black pearl. So it's Acura's premium black paint. It's a $600 color upcharge to it. And there's a lot of flake in this paint, guys. So if you look really closely, you can just see it sparkling. So luckily the car is clean. Black cars always look best when they're cleaned and shined up. And this one in particular, just given the amount of flex in the paint. So that's a really, really good color. But specifically with this car being the A-Spec package, it really gets all these kind of blackout trim pieces as well. And I think contributing that with the majestic black pearl paint, it just looks menacing, right? It's just all black. There's no chrome, which I like outside of the badges here. So let's jump right in. So first and foremost, you're going to see that it has Acura's Jewel Eye LED headlights. Really premium design, super bright at night. Just below that is what they call the chicane daytime running light. That kind of check mark, daytime running light looks really good as well. If you look really close, it's hard to see. It actually says Acura right there in the headlight as well. So again, a nice little design touch point there. Up front, we do have Acura's Diamond Pentagon grille. With it being the A-Spec trim, the outside of the grille is gloss black, and then the diamond mesh itself is kind of this matte finish. So again, with the black here, it looks really, really good. It stands out a bit more on some of the other lighter colors available. So you have this little, well, it looks like it's an air and tape, but it's actually not functional. It's still a nice design element in the front fascia. Down below on A-Spec, you do get LED fog lights. You also get parking sensors, 4 in the front. And then again, there's some functional openings down below as well. But again, I think this MDX looks really, really good. The black paint, like I said, also makes it very sporty. As we make our way to the side, we'll go in and just do a full kind of side profile shot of MDX. So again, it is a 3-row mid-size SUV. It's actually 7 passengers. So you're not going to fit in 8 like a Pilot or anything bigger like that, but you do get 7 seat capacity, and we'll show you how much is inside. I'll hop inside and show you each of the 3 rows. But again, from the side profile, it looks really good. It's really sporty and modern. With the A-Spec package, all of the window treatment is blacked out. The mirror caps. And also even the kind of side blade. It might be kind of hard to make out. Let me just zoom in here. But this piece can be chrome on some of the other trims, but it's actually a gloss black here on A-Spec. So that's a nice touch. Here we have the A-Spec badging, and then you got these A-Spec wheels. So I think they look really good. They're 20-inch wheels in size. They're this kind of split 5-spoke design. Acura calls the paint color shark gray, so that's a really nice touch point to it. And of all the other trims, like some of the wheels are like a machine finish and whatnot, but I really like the shark gray. You even get the black lug nuts, which is a nice touch point. So I think that's a really, really nice touch. As we make our way to the rear, though, I think this is where MDX maybe looks the best. Overall, MDX is a really premium yet sporty looking SUV. You got the Acura badge, the A-Spec badge, MDX, SH all-wheel drive down below, and then these very, very large exhaust finishers on both sides. So a very, very sporty looking SUV all when it's said and done. So next, let's go ahead and hop in the interior so we can talk about all the tech and features. All right, here we are inside the MDX A-Spec, and it's a really nice place to be. There's a lot of premium touch points, a lot of technology, a lot of features. So first and foremost, I'll talk about the steering wheel. So it's the right size, guys. Sometimes you get steering wheels that are a little too skinny, even a little too chunky or too fat. I think it's the perfect size, the perfect width. It's also nice because it's a flat bottom steering wheel. And so with it being A-Spec, you kind of get this perforations here on the side, nice red contrast stitching, A-Spec badging down below. And then basically you have all of like your volume and infotainment controls on the left, and then all of your safety and ADAS controls on the right. So very easy, good ergonomics. There's paddle shifters back here as well. We'll talk about that more in the powertrain. But again, immediately, as soon as you sit in, you're kind of hanging on to the steering wheel. It's a really, really nice steering wheel. Now, with MDX, there's multiple interior colors that you can get. When you're on the A-Spec, though, you're pretty much going to get either a black interior or a red interior. And that's going to change depending on which exterior color you go with. But this particular car has, again, that majestic black pearl outside and the red interior on the inside. And I think this is an awesome color combo. So what that means is you get all kinds of not only red accents, but red stitching and red leather everywhere. I think this is probably the most red leather I've seen in a car maybe ever. There's because the red leather continues here on the center console. The glove box is red, the seats are red, the center console, the door lining. So there's a lot of red, which I like. I really like this color combination, but let us know your guys' thoughts down below. Is it too much? Would you wish there was a little bit more black in here? But again, I think the way it's executed, it's really, really good. So up here on the dash, you got red contrast stitching. You have real aluminum texture up here on the top as well. There's a lot of piano black here in the center area, which again, it can be kind of a magnet for fingerprints and dust, but I think it helps to make it look kind of very premium and break up some of the materials. You even get kind of black contrast stitching against the red leather throughout as well. So that's a really, really nice touch point. The door lining's really nice. It's comfortable. Again, you have lots of premium materials here. You're gonna get ambient lighting, which you can change. It looks really awesome at night. That aluminum material is all over the place, including the speakers, which we'll get to here in a sec. But what's really nice about MDX is that on this trim, you actually have 3 settings for both the driver and the passenger seats. So they're 12-way power seats on both sides, and there's 3-way memory seating as well. So I think that's a really, really premium feature. Let's talk about those seats a little bit more. They're very comfortable. On the A-Spec, you get this ultra suede material that goes down the center of the seat, and then everything else is like perforated, very nicely bolstered. You can, again, with 12-way adjustability for both the driver and passenger, you can get really comfortable in these seats. As I look ahead, there's some really good tech. You have a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. It's really configurable, and it even changes its graphics depending on the drive mode that you're in. We'll talk about that more in the powertrain section. And then you also have a 12.3-inch center display. It's high res. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so lots of features there as well. However, you do have to use Acura's, they call it True Touchpad interface. So it is this trackpad down here. It is kind of one-to-one positioning. So you like where you point to is where it's going to highlight on the screen. There's a lot of people that have mixed feelings about it. I got used to the system. I think it's pretty easy to use. And once you do get the hang of it, to be fair, it does make operating it while driving actually easier because you're now like kind of like going in as a touchscreen and kind of fumbling with the controls. But like I said earlier, Acura did update the MDX and they did change it to a touchscreen. So that's going to change not only the look and feel of this interior, but ultimately how you use it as well. So let us know down in the comments below, was that the right choice? As we look at down below, you got all your HVAC controls. The really nice thing is that there's a lot of buttons. It might seem overwhelming at first, but it's nice to have easy access to all your climate controls and all of the controls, even for the seats. So you have dual automatic climate. You have automatic seat controls too, so you can do automatic ventilation or heating. It'll do that based on, you know, the temperature outside and inside the vehicle. Here you got an engine idle stop off, the brake hold button, all of your gear selector here. It's that push button style gear selector. And over here, you kind of push this button and you get some, you know, connectivity. So there's a USB-C and A that's kind of hidden away in this little area here. So that's a nice touch point. You get a volume knob down here. That's also the power on and off, as well as a track seat function. So having that all within arm's reach is nice, and I think it does take some getting used to, but I think once you get the hang of it, having all this right by your fingers is a really nice touch point. Just a little area here to like store something. You got two cup holders. You got a huge place here that's also the wireless charge pad. And then of course you lift this up, got some space inside. It actually has like a dual lift. So if you do that, there's actually a little cubby space under there as well. The one great thing about MDX, and that's true on all trims, is you get this very, very large opening panoramic moonroof. So I'll go ahead and open it with just, you know, one pull back. All of a sudden it opens all the way up. It's nice because when it's closed, it's not only matched to the color of the roof, but it doesn't let any light in. Sometimes there's this you know, kind of like shade that is, you know, either slightly tinted or it's transparent and you're still getting light and the sun on you. I like the fact that when it's closed, you can't tell. It feels like there's almost no roof at all. And so when you have that there, that's a nice feature. Again, opening it up is really nice. And then again, if you actually want to open the glass part of the roof, there's two settings where that shifts back as well. So you get lots of, you know, functionality out of that panoramic moonroof. So with that, before we hop in the back, let's talk about one of my favorite things, which is audio. So let's talk about this Acura ELS Studio 3D audio system. It's really, really good. It's 16 speakers on this trim. There's 4 in the headliner above you, and it sounds awesome. It's a really powerful, really good system. So with that, I think we've covered everything in the front row. So let's quickly hop into the second and third rows next. All right, here we are in the second row of the MDX A-Spec. So the position in front of me is what would actually be my driver position. So you can see how much leg room I have here. There's a lot of knee room, plenty of headroom, lots of shoulder room. Again, fitting 3 people across this way is no problem. As you guys can clearly see, I have a booster seat and this outboard seat to show you how much space is there. Again, plenty of space there. The passenger seat's pretty far back. But even if you were stuck in the middle seat here, there's actually a lot of space back here as well. It's nice because it's a flat floor too, so you don't have to worry about a hump in the middle there. So really, really good space back here. The materials in the second row don't slouch either. So that same ultra suede materials on the seats, the red leather is everywhere. The aluminum trim is here. You get really, really big speakers back here and in the headliner as well. So you're not penalized by sitting in the second row of the MDX. You also have full functionality of the climate controls back here. So you can, you know, turn on the modes, turn it off, adjust the temperature, the fan speed. You have the vents down here, and then down below you get some connectivity. So there's a 12-volt power outlet. That's this left one here. You lift that up, that's like your socket. And then you have 2 USB-As for charging as well. This one here is kind of a dummy cover there, but very well integrated. You get 2 map pockets back here. But let's talk about this center seat here. So essentially there's this pull tab here. So if I pull that, it lowers this whole center section down. But what's really nicely done is behind the center seat here, they have the cup holders, this large area where you can store your phone. It's a really nice place to be, and it essentially acts as an armrest. But what's nice is this center row seat can actually be removed. And we'll show you how that works. But you can remove it. And well, to be fair, there's really not a lot of space to store it in the vehicle. I mean, you could if you put the other third row seats down. But essentially, I think the idea is you pull it out and you store it in your garage if you know you just need 6 passengers and you want that pass-through ability. So that's a pretty nice feature as well. And then lastly, again, you do have these manual pull shades here for extra shades on the window. So again, the second row seating is a really nice place to be. Let's go ahead and see what it's like to get all the way in the third row. All right, guys, here we are. I'm in the third row of the MDX A-Spec. I'll show you what it's like with the seat all the way back. But getting in and out is really easy. There's actually 2 buttons on both this seat and this seat as well. One is down low on the side, so if you're getting into the vehicle, you push that, and the seat essentially is spring-loaded and slides forward. There's also a button here on the back, so if you're in the third row and the seat's in front of you, you push it once. Again, it spring loads forward and it gives very easy ingress and egress into the third row. Back here, materials are also nice. You do have that same red and black motif on the seats. However, the black is actually leather back here. It's not ultra suede like the second and first rows. So let us know down in the comments below if that's a big deal for you. I think the fact that they color match and it keeps the same design for me is enough. You do get some big speakers back here. It doesn't feel overly claustrophobic either. You got some good light coming in from the rear quarter windows. There's very small cup holders here, and that's kind of about it. So watch this. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull this seat forward, so you're going to see me disappear here. Now that's with it all the way back. My legs, my knees, again, I'm about 5'10", guys. They're right up on the back of this seat. So you know, if it was this seat can actually slide forward here in the second row. So if the person there slid it forward a little bit, I'd have a little bit more knee room. But I think for short trips, this is fine for adults. But clearly, you're not going to want to take long trips back here just because it is a little, you know, it could get a little claustrophobic. So if I push the button, though, in the seat in front of me, boom, you can see that's what I was talking about. It slides forward and it makes for easy ingress and egress. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about the cargo space. All right, guys, let's go ahead and talk about the cargo space of the MDX A-Spec. So I'm going to go ahead, open up the tailgate here, and we can talk about how much space you get back here. So with a third row seats up, you actually get 18.1 cubic feet of space. And if you fold these seats down, which is pretty easy to do, just one latch here, folds flat, one more latch, you fold that down, that actually jumps to 48.4 cubic feet of space. And if you were to actually fold the second row down as well, that can actually jump to 95 cubic feet of space in this car. So tons and tons of space. Definitely never going to have a problem moving stuff, which makes this car great. But in addition to that, there's also some really good features. You got a power outlet back here, 12-volt socket, and you have a lot of like underfloor storage, which is totally customizable. So you can actually pull this up and remove this all together, which is nice. But it's you know, basically one side is carpeted to match the interior. The other side is this kind of hard plastic. So you could put this in back in the exact same position, keep the same height, but have this kind of, you know, more rugged surface here. So if you were going to put something on it that was wet or dirty, you wouldn't worry about it too much. The other nice thing is, let's go ahead and move this out the way, but you can actually put this down another level, and that gives you kind of this extra space down here. And again, this would be great if you had like wet boots or something back here, because you got this plastic surface and you can throw whatever you want back here. So a lot of usability out of the cargo space of the MDX. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain. All right, guys, here we are with the powertrain of the MDX A-Spec. Now, this is Acura's 3.5-liter V6 engine. It makes 290 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque. It's made exclusively to a 10-speed automatic transmission, and on this trim, it comes standard with super handling all-wheel drive system, which is Acura's true torque vectoring diff in the back. We'll talk more about that here once we get behind the wheel. So yeah, there's no better way than to talk about how this car drives than to go ahead and get behind the wheel. So let's go ahead and hop inside. All right, guys, here we are inside the MDX A-Spec. We're going to go ahead and take this thing for a drive. So first things first, put the foot on the brake, hit the engine start button. What you see is you'll see a bunch of graphics coming up in the digital instrument cluster. What's also nice is the seat moves forward, the steering wheel actually comes out and adjusts, and those are settings that you can turn on and off on the center display if you really don't like it, but I kind of like it. It gives you a lot more space to get in and out of the vehicle, and it's just kind of a nice premium feature to have. So with that, let's go ahead and take this thing for a drive. So this does have Acura's push button style gear selector. So just foot on your brake and hit the D to engage, and then we're going to go ahead and take off. One of the nice features some people may not know is with the electronic parking brake, even if it's engaged, as long as you have your seatbelt on, you can and you put it into drive, you can pretty much just drive off and it'll automatically disengage the parking brake. So that's a nice little feature as well. Like I said, you may not know that. So but yeah, as always, we'll talk about how the car drives, and we'll also talk about the drive modes that it has. So let's go ahead and first change it into comfort mode, and you get some really good graphics here on the big 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. If I actually pull it to the left one more time, there's actually a snow mode, and it's really cool. It shows the MDX like driving through snow. I'm not going to stay in this mode because it's not snowing here, but you can imagine what this does is changes the throttle behavior, also the torque vectoring characteristics of the all-wheel drive, just to make sure that you have the most traction in inclement weather. So I'll go ahead and twist it back into comfort. And yeah, let's just start talking about it. So, what you notice right in front of you is the digital instrument cluster. The gauges change by the drive mode. So it says comfort there, and it gives you these kind of blue rings for what would be the RPM and the speedometer, but they actually don't show up. There's literally no numbers outside of a digital readout of the speed. And so, let us know down in the comments below what you think of it. I think they're just trying to make it very minimalistic to kind of take any distractions away from you. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting note on the comfort mode gauge setting. As far as power, you can tell it's kind of dialed back. It's really just, cruising through neighborhoods, although there's still good power. As I mentioned in the powertrain, there's 290 horsepower. 267 foot-pounds of torque, but this is a naturally aspirated engine. So in order to get a turbocharged engine on the MDX, you have to step up to Type S, and that's really just for a whole different level of performance. But this, again, 3.5 liter V6, that J35 Honda and Acura engine, it's no slouch still. It's got plenty of power. In the comfort mode, steering is a little light. This would be great, actually, though, in a parking lot, just for easy maneuverability. Now, the A-Spec trim that we're in doesn't have the adaptive dampers, so that would be something that changes within the drive modes, but this particular trim doesn't have that. Again, you'd have to step up to the advanced trim or something like the Type S, which has full air suspension along with the adjustable dampers. So that's a whole nother level. Again, we can talk about that when we review that trim on this channel as well. But I'll go ahead now and change from comfort to what they call normal. And so immediately the gauges bring back all the numbers. You do have RPM numbers now. You do have speedometer. So this is kind of a more traditional gauge layout. And even from here, no matter which drive mode you're in, you can basically change the gauge layout in MDX. They basically call it like advanced or crafted. And then this one is kind of more of a round traditional style gauge. If you go to kind of this more advanced look and feel, then it kind of makes it, where the numbers jut out to the outside. So again, it just depends. It's your personal preference on which gauge, layout that you like. For me, I kind of like the round gauges, to be fair. So, but again, driving in normal, now the throttle response is picked up. Steering got a little bit heavier, but it's still very natural feeling, very direct. Um, and again, I'm going to go ahead and actually dial it up more. So now this is sport mode. And so very fancy graphics. The gauges also now changed red. The RPM kind of got really bold and highlighted, and there's even what they call a power monitor there to show you that. So here, steering got a little bit heavier. It did. It's noticeable, but it's not like, oh my God, it's not super heavy. So I think that's pretty good. Again, I know this is a big three-row SUV, so maybe you're not, ripping through the canyons in your MDX, but it is nice to have that adjustability with the steering, which takes you to the next setting, which is individual mode. And that's essentially this big Acura logo on what they call the dynamic mode switch. So if you push that in, it brings it up. And then if you push and hold, it basically allows you to customize the engine, steering. They call this suspension, but again, on this trim, it doesn't have the adjustable damper. So what's that changing is how the torque vectoring system distributes power. So that we'll talk about that there in a second. You can also, disable idle stop, but that's not permanent. So you would have to get into individual mode every time for that to automatically go off. You can change the gauge colors and even the ambient lighting throughout. So again, there is a lot of customizability with the individual setting. But I'm going to go back into sport. So twist it a couple times. And you can see it kind of keeps the RPMs high. Like a lot of the other Acuras with the automatics, the D and the S for the transmission can be adjusted. So if I push S, um, you see it kind of like purposely downshifts for you. And then what that does is that also allows you to like play a little bit more with the paddle shifters. Of course, you can use them at any time and in any of the other modes, but when you have the S selected, now the paddle shifts behave a little bit more aggressively. And you'll see in the gauge, it'll say like SM for manual and then the number of gear that you're in. So I'm in SM3. So I'm going to go ahead and get to this stop sign and I'll give it a full blast from SM1. So first gear launch, supposed to give the best performance in an MDX. So full stop, SM1, here we go. Auto upshifting to second and even third. So it's auto upshifting 60 right there. So MDX is not slow. It's not slow. It's auto upshifting for you though. I mean, I know some other OEMs, let you bang off the rev limiter or do something like that. The Acura, even in the sport setting and the manual kind of shifting mode, it will upshift for you to, prevent damage to the transmission. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse for people that want that aggressive setting. They may not like it, but hey, you're saving your transmission there. So, but basically, unless you're banging it off the rev limiter, it will hold the RPM. So that's at least good. So if you were driving on some, curvy, twisty roads, it wouldn't necessarily like upshift, at 4,000 RPM. It's only if you're holding it and letting it rev line and not changing the gears will it auto upshift for you. So again, that's kind of a nice middle ground. But I'll go ahead and purposely downshift. And man, you see that V6, and it's naturally aspirated, it has some really good grunt to it. So here's second gear. And now, in that case, it did upshift at about 6,500 RPM. So it's pretty close to a red line where it'll auto upshift for you. But again, by pulling the paddle shifters there, you hear it downshifting, you hear that engine rev there. So you do have some control. But like I said, it is an MDX. It is a big three-row SUV. So I guess they're not expecting that you're going to be, hitting the canyons in this thing. But I tell you what, this thing actually has really, really good handling. And a lot of that comes down to the super handling all-wheel drive system. So this is Acura's fourth generation of the system, and it has true torque vectoring capability. So it's not it's not pushing the brakes for you, right? It's not that kind of torque vectoring. It's literally distributing power through that electronic diff. And so what it can do is it can actually send up to 70% of the power to the rear wheels. And then from those wheels, left or right, it can distribute 100% of that power to either wheel to like always keep you in line and in some cases create this kind of oversteer effect. Now, if you watch, our TLX reviews, if you watch the recent RDX review, you might have heard me talk about it there too. It is a thing. You may not believe that a car like this could have any kind of characteristics of oversteer, but it's really cool because the way the system works is it basically eggs you on. If you really feel the system working and the torque vectoring working when you're actually accelerating. So I think by most accounts, you're driving and you're going through a turn and you actually wouldn't want to accelerate, you would actually back up. But the Acura systems actually like beg you to push it. And when you do, it actually goes through and it really kind of like helps rotate the vehicle. So that is a really, really good part of why this car drives as good as it does. So again, I think this car has really good power. Fuel economy is pretty good. I think go ahead and put the numbers down below so you can see them for the city, highway, and combined. But I would say probably like mid to low 20s is reasonable and a good combination of driving. If you're on the freeway for a long period of time and behaving yourself, you might be able to get even up into the high 20s. So pretty good fuel economy all around. And again, like I said, I just think, when you look at some of the competitors in this segment, there's a lot of them that, again, are kind of leaning more towards like the luxury side of things or the comfort side of things. And not to say that MDX doesn't have some luxury touch points or that it's not comfortable, but just like the RDX, and we reviewed that on this channel, these SUVs from Acura definitely kind of lend to like more of a sporty, fun to drive, characteristic. So again, I feel like if you're really like kind of more of that driver and, that enthusiast, like you definitely have to look at this and put this on your shopping list as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the video, guys. All right, guys, that's a wrap. What did you think of the 2024 Acura MDX A-Spec? Does it have all the design, the technology, and features you're looking for in this very crowded three-row luxury SUV segment? Or are you going to look at some of the competitors? Let us know down in the comments below. Also, let us know if you do want to see that newly refreshed 2025 MDX here on the channel. We're happy to bring it to you. So again, thanks for all of you that have joined us thus far. And again, if you're new to the channel, please be sure to click that bell to subscribe to come back for more. And we'll see you at the next episode.